Hello, I am Father George Parsenios, and I am going to speak to you about how St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church in Lexington, Massachusetts, is going to begin participating in a 5-year pilot program run by Kachkar Studios, which is an affiliate of the Charles and Agnes Kazarian Foundation. The pilot program is designed to help parishes like ours increase their financial transparency and accountability, and therefore their financial strength and their spiritual vitality. This slide is a summary of my presentation, which should take about 10 minutes. First, we will explain and remind ourselves of the extraordinary benefits that come from financial discipline, and especially financial discipline based on world-class benchmarks for management excellence. You'll notice that the word benefits here in this slide is in all capital letters. That's because, according to the plan of Kachkar Studios, the word benefits is also an acronym that summarizes not only the best ways to enact financial transparency and accountability, but also the positive results that come from financial transparency and accountability. We will see where we are developing the benchmarks that we're using financial transparency. What institutions are we following, and where are we getting these benchmarks? We will introduce a new concept that is summarized by the acronym SROI, which stands for Spiritual Return on Investment. And in order to explain what that means, we will look at our historical financial numbers from 2019 to 2024, as well as our budgeted numbers for 2025, and we will then compare those to benchmark numbers developed from other parishes in the Kachkar Studios project. The first thing we want to do to explain how we will participate in and benefit from this 5-year pilot program is to explain that the goal is to increase the number of our regular Sunday church parishioners. These are defined as the faithful in this program. We also want to increase the biblical literacy of our parish. Our goal then is not just to increase the number of stewards that we have on the log books so that we can say we have a lot of people who give money to the church. We want to see how that money is resulting in faithful members who come to church regularly. And then again, once we have faithful members who come to church regularly, we want to increase their biblical literacy. Our goal is to embrace with great enthusiasm the best practices of financial discipline and management excellence, and the potential benefits of our participation in this program are extraordinary. The incentive award funding is historic. Kachkar Studios is sharing over $100 million with Judeo-Christian organizations, and most especially with parishes like ours. I spoke a moment ago about the acronym benefits, and the benefits that come from financial discipline and transparency are numerous. First, these benefits are defined by the scriptures, and so the B in benefits stands for biblical wisdoms. Each one of these 8 benefits is summarized in a PDF document that can be found under the financial tab on our church website. I'll summarize them briefly for you here now, because the first one, as we say, is biblical wisdoms. And of course, the scripture teaches us that we have to have self-control and discipline over our minds, over our mouths, over our bodies. And that, of course, applies as well to our finances. We have great strength and self-control when we have financial transparency and discipline. We want, of course, also then to share this with others. We want to educate others, not only in our parish, but in other parishes, and not only for our parishes, but for our personal lives as well. As part of this, then, we want to add new faithful to our congregations. We want to show them that by being good financial shepherds of our money and by living in a very scriptural environment where the scriptures are taught and lived, we will attract people to our parish. We want to create, therefore, an environment of trust. Number 5 indicates that we want to have financial strength. If we are financially transparent, if we are financially stable, we can enact new ministries. We can make changes if we need to, and we can weather difficult financial storms if we must. And we want to have an identity that reflects a parish that is solid and stable financially and spiritually. And once we establish this track record, we will have that identity. Our aspiration, therefore, as part of this 5-year pilot program, is to follow a variety of steps that will help us build this track record. And therefore, we want to be good stewards, and we want to form good stewards in our parish. The benchmarks that we will use are developed from certainly Orthodox institutions like the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America, the Orthodox Church in America, but also from non-Orthodox institutions like the Catholic Leadership Institute or the ECFA, which is an evangelical Christian organization. Our goal is to follow the very best practices for financial transparency and accountability. As part of this, we want to introduce a new concept, the concept of social return on investment, summarized as SROI. SROI is a new concept, but the idea of having an SROI is not at all foreign. When people invest money in real estate or in various other financial ventures, they want to have a return on their investment. Well, when philanthropic groups give money to institutions like churches, they very often give their money with very little sense about whether or not there's a return on that investment. The SROI is developed as a way to understand if the financial gifts that are being delivered are leading to any kind of return. The SROI is developed from taking the average number of regular Sunday church attendees, which we've already defined as the faithful. We multiply that number by 20,000, and then we divide it by a church's total annual spending. The number that we develop from that then measures how effectively spending is strengthening faith, building community, and that number then allows us to compare ourselves over time with peer institutions. This first slide shows that our SROI has increased since 2019. We had a 5.6 SROI in 2019. In 2024, we had a 7.7 SROI. This slide is really just designed to show you our historic numbers, and you can see it by looking at both this slideshow in greater detail on our website or in looking at the full financial documents that are available there on the website. What we want to do, though, is look now at the next slide, which shows that our SROI has increased because the number of faithful has increased from 2019, when we would have about 125 people on average in church on a Sunday, and now we have about 140. We can see that our church-related income per faithful member has also gone up by a few $100s. More important, our spending per faithful has gone down. So we're getting more faithful church participation for less money. This also means that we have more financial assets per faithful member. As we compare ourselves to the benchmarks that are available from peer institutions and other churches, we see that our SROI of 7.7 gives us room for improvement based on the benchmark that is set at 9.4. We're at about 82% of where we want to be. And that's because while we have a little bit more church-related income per faithful member, we spend a little bit more per faithful member, and we have slightly fewer financial assets per faithful member. But you'll see that our number of faithful is a little bit higher than the benchmark, 3, and our faithful percentage is a little bit higher than the benchmark. We're about 9 percentage points higher. So we have some signs of positive activity. We've been doing things well. And what we see is that we can do things better. Before I conclude by explaining what our next steps might be, I want to share at the end of this presentation, so that you can look at them, a more full explanation of the groups from which we've developed our benchmarks in best practices for financial transparency in the last two slides. But having said that, I want to say that at St. Nicholas Greek Orthodox Church, our plans are developing for how to increase our SROI. And we are especially interested in developing plans for increasing biblical literacy. We want to develop a regular Bible study program. We want to develop initiatives like a Bible Bowl that is a fun competition designed to bring people together to learn more about the Bible in a fun but competitive atmosphere. We have other plans as well as we seek to get the most out of this pilot program run by Catch Car Studios, and you will be hearing from us more in the future as we do so. God be with you, and have a wonderful day.